Howdy, everybody, and welcome to the KalamariCast.
Hi.
Nick and Hubert here.
Hey. Hi.
And today we're playing a game that's not very widely known. I don't even know how you found out about it, Hubert. How did you find out about it?
A couple other, I guess, video game commentators. I heard stuff about it. Random people online. It's a pretty good game. Vanquish.
Yeah, it's called Vanquish.
Developed. When it goes on the title screen, it's like Vanquish. Developed by Sega, and it's very uncharacteristic of traditional Japanese games because Japanese people very rarely make for like any third person, first person, any kind of shooters whatsoever.
Well, I mean, third person, yes. You don't really go. You go first person a little bit, but third person, yes. I mean, Devil May Cry. Although it's not locked in.
That's like an action game. It's not.
Yeah,
like
although it's not locked into
shooter.
third person.
I mean,
yeah.
the guns have no effect. The game sucks. let's not go into that.
But you're right. It is a little different than most Japanese games. However, it has all of the same Japanese quirks. It's very artsy. The characters are quintessentially Japanese.
The guy smokes.
Yeah. Between when your suit's overheating and recharging, you can press left bumper to have a cigarette, and it'll recharge faster. Matt Stein, if you're watching, this character is you. And I mean that in the best way possible.
Right. Well, you have the ability to slow down time, like a bullet time feature. I mean, reminiscent of like Max Payne back in the day. You can evade, and I think when this game is at its best, I guess you can hijack vehicle, but this is the only vehicle you can hijack. It's not a big point of the game. This game is at its best when you are able to fly around open spaces with the jet-propelled boots and go around in circles, dodging the enemy and shooting at them. I think that's what makes this game unique, and that is what makes this game a lot of fun.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot. Just like that. It's a lot different. It's not something that you'd be used to, and that's why I think you should play it.
And in contrast, what made this game bad was when you weren't allowed to ride.
Yeah, it was a lot of the same.
When you weren't allowed to go around jetting around with your boots, and you had to do cover-based shooting, which is cool, I guess, for people who like cover-based shooting. But when you have the ability to do this, and then all of a sudden you're stuck on a closed rail system, and you have to shoot enemies from a fixed position.
But it makes you switch up your tactics, though. At the same time, it makes you have to use both.
I guess, but I think just what it did the best was just the movement around the map and just the speed of the game is what helped it the most. And then
a little background about the game, not to give you too much, but a little background on it. You're an agent
for DARPA.
For DARPA, yeah. I have no idea what that stands for. But yeah, you're an agent, and San Francisco gets attacked by this colony/weapon, which has a striking resemblance to the Citadel in Mass Effect.
Yeah, there's rings.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Yeah. It's not quite as cool because the fingers don't close.
Right.
When the Reaper gets. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, but it's a striking resemblance, and yeah, right there, smoking a cigarette. So you're basically. It's funny how often. I mean, you look at the what is it? Metal Gear Solid 3. You look at this game. Not only that, but what the Japanese see as a protagonist against antagonist battle. Who were you fighting basically in Metal Gear Solid 3? An enemy that was a striking resemblance to Russians or the Red Army.
Right. Yeah.
In this game, you are fighting a Russian nationalist force. It's interesting how the Japanese game designers see protagonist versus antagonist battles. It's always the Cold War over and over and over again.
Exactly.
Cold War's over, guys. Let's move on to another one.
That's like when everybody chooses to destroy New York.
Yeah.
In video games, and you're just like.
Watch No Punctuation for an explanation of that. He explains it perfectly.
Well, you'd think that people had a fetish for getting out, and Okay.
So a little bit about the gameplay,
Digression.
how- yeah.
That guy got squished. But a little bit about the game is that you get armor. You get no armor abilities. The only armor abilities you
No
have
armor
are
upgrades.
Are upgrades.
Upgrades.
I mean, yeah, I guess upgrades. And that the only obviously the only thing you get is what you start with the jets, the evading, the slow down time. But what you can do is you can upgrade your weapons. You get either weapon upgrades in the form of like these like green cube things that pop up, and
Right.
it says when you walk up to it, it says upgrade. You pick your weapon,
And there's whatever
Upgrade-
weapon you have at the current moment that gets upgraded.
or when you find weapon drops, if
which
you're
I didn't know, and I'm glad you
Yes.
told me about this.
right when. What happens is when you have weapon drops and if your weapon is full of ammo and you pick up, because normally you find so much ammo, you find so many crates, and at the beginning of the game I thought, I'm not going to pick up this just in case I have to, backtrack at some point.
Right.
And what ends up happening is that if you pick up the weapon while your weapon is full, you'll actually upgrade it.
Right, which makes
but it's like
which
a little,
was a great addition.
It's not an instantaneous upgrade, but you get a slow, like a
Right,
small
what was it-
progress
what is
bar.
it? Yeah,
Like
four. Usually there were
Yeah.
4 of them, and then you got the full upgrade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is something they don't tell you in the game, and you don't, and unless you,
Yeah.
and I was watching it. Eventually, I noticed that there was like little stars and stripes popping up, and I was like, "What is this? Is this like a progress bar?" I'm like, what's going on?"
I was so happy that you told me about that because it added such a new element to the game.
Right.
I mean, because the upgrade cubes, the green upgrade cubes, they don't pop up that often.
Exactly.
However, you pay attention to how much ammo you have, what weapons with how much ammo you have. You end up not wanting to use a single gun just because you have full ammo of it, and
Right.
you are one like quarter away from an upgrade,
right.
and you're waiting until you find it. It added a whole nother element to video games that I have
And-
never seen before, and I really enjoyed that.
And that introduces the next drawback, is that unlike Dead Space 1 and 2, there's no New Game Plus, so you can't carry over whatever weapons upgrades you have
Right.
into a new game, which, I mean, I guess,
Yeah.
I found it to be a problem because obviously, in Dead Space, you can start off a new game with nothing, but you can also carry over whatever character you have, which I don't know.
Right. However, Dead Space, it's fairly the same difficulty throughout. It gets
Yes.
it gets harder as it goes, obviously.
Right.
But the difficulty doesn't quite change that much. This followed the difficulty. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
quick-
scaled the way
as a
you've
regular
gone through.
as a regular Japanese game, and I will say it's nice to have bosses for a change.
Yes.
I
They're-
occasionally miss the days of bosses. This had great bosses. This is one of the earlier cutscenes, one of the earlier missions of the game. These are considered, I guess, the bosses of this act. There's 2 of these large robots, and I won't spoil what the bosses are later on in the game, but they get harder and they get more interesting.
Yeah.
And if you're a fan of boss battles, between the gameplay, the quick between
Right.
the bullet time style,
fast twitch movements.
yeah,
and
exactly, the jet boots, the overheating, between all of that and the bosses that keep changing and you have to use different tactics on them,
Right.
it was a lot of fun.
Right.
It really was.
And that's a lot. That's one thing I guess games have sort of deviated away from. Especially shooters. It's
Right,
tough to
yeah.
find bosses. I guess for them to put input bosses. I mean, people try, but it's not to the same degree as this game, and nor is it as effective.
I think Japanese games in general are the only ones Japanese produced that still do bosses.
And
If other
and it
if
still
other
doesn't
genres
do
do
the-
it,
right,
then
and-
these are the only ones that are.
And it doesn't
good.
do the traditional format of like level boss.
Right.
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 There are long stretches where you don't have a boss, and then all of a sudden you'll have a couple bosses in between.
Right.
Which is good.
This had it well spaced out. There were, I think,
Yeah.
5 acts. You could call you could, depending on what you consider a boss. These 2 robots are easily the last boss in this act 2. I'm not sure Act 3 had a boss. There was a fight with another boss at the end of Act 4, and of course the final one at the end of Act
Right.
5. But in between that, you fight characters that you could consider bosses.
That were bosses from the beginning of the game.
Exactly,
But,
but
then
all
you
of a
fight
sudden, yeah, but now they're
consistently.
nothing. Yeah.
Right. And so, you know, there's no competitive multiplayer. There's no cooperative multiplayer in this game. And the campaign, while it wasn't disappointing, it was a little short. I actually happened to get
it one night, yeah.
5 hours, and it had a lot of replayability, so I ended up going right back in and playing it all over again. Obviously, no New Game Plus. Found that out the hard way, but but I still enjoyed it. And it's pretty good.
I thought me as playing the same games that everybody else does, the first person shooters and whatnot. I found this thoroughly refreshing, and the standard model. Yeah, I really like this. I would say
they also have QuickTime events.
I'm glad they did that, because unlike God of War, where it was all QuickTime events, this would show up every so often when you thought the QuickTime events were going to show up. They didn't.
Right.
And they showed up when you didn't expect them to. And
what happens is, if you happen to fail this boss, and rather than having like God of War, where you just all of a sudden start over again and just repeat the QuickTime event until you get it done, if you were to fail this, he would transform into a different boss.
Right. So for this game, I think we've decided on it's if we were going to do halves, a 2.5. It's a great game, but the replayability isn't all there. So I think if you can rent it, definitely rent it. Play it a couple times within the time that you have it, obviously. As
long as it's $40, I don't think it's worth a buy. But if the price goes down to $20, it's a definite buy, I think.
It was a lot of fun. If you can find it for rent it. If it's cheap, buy it. And as always, thanks for watching. Rate, comment, subscribe. And if there's any video games that you would like us to do, you can email us at KalamariCast@gmail.com or post on this comment on this video. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.